shark bait has such teeth.
Welcome. This is Pittsburgh Dive Bar Talk, but we stepped out of our comfort zone this time. This is number 135. 135. And for the first 134, it was all just gibberish. We liked our gibberish, but actually in this one, we did something with meaning. So this is a little bit different. But before you turn it, hang in there with us here. What we did is we have given a tribute to Randy Wiel, who was a good friend of mine. And if you watch this show, we had him interviewed twice. We haven't interviewed anyone 2 times, and we interviewed him for a half hour each time. We wanted it to be 10 minutes, and it was a half hour 2 different times, and we could have been on 2 more times easily. Now, if you know Randy, you're going to watch this thing. I know you are, because not because he's not with us anymore, but because of the way he lived his life. But the ones I'm reaching out to right this second, if you didn't know Randy, why should you watch it? Well, I'm going to give you over to Tiny here, who didn't know Randy except for a short period of time, and maybe he can tell you why you should hang with this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I only had the one interaction during the interview process, and you could tell right away, he's a different cat. He treated me like I was there with all your camps back in the day, and I was just one of the boys, and that showed through. In between interviews, you went and had to step away, and Randy and I were just on the computer together, the 2 of us, and we talked for 10-15 minutes without you even being involved about just stuff, and we left so much meat on the bone with where conversation, it was all the stuff that was off air was just as good as on. And I think people that, to watch this first, everybody's attracted to nostalgia, and it's real easy to see as soon as you start talking with people on these interviews, you all fall right back into that old nostalgia and the stories. What's different to me sitting here is not everybody's old stories are as interesting as his. I think that's the biggest difference. You're like, holy, and the first thing I remember, and you pointed this out to me off air, you go through all this dude's accolades, and oh, by the way, he speaks 7 languages.
That's way down on his list,
right? Yeah, and so and look, if you're looking for a biography on this guy, this isn't it. This is all the stuff you can read about him and find out all his accolades. This is all the stuff when when he's not doing what he was supposed to do. And it's all just stories. And once these guys get going, there's some real good stories in there. So it's worth a watch.
So what we got coming up for you is 10 different interviews. Everyone that knew him we try to get a cross section of different aspects of his life. Some are shorter, some are longer, but you're just going to learn something new from each person, something about Randy that maybe, if you didn't know him, of course, something you didn't know. Even if you knew him, though, maybe something you didn't know. And there's no editing. There was no script. So will it be like perfectly done like you see? No, it won't be. It'll be typical Pittsburgh Dive Bar Talk. Right. But we put it together the best we could.
We knew we really had something when one of the people we interviewed, JJ, she reached out to us about Randy stuff when she saw the old episodes, and we were kind of mulling the idea around. And then when she reached out, it was like, there's something here to be had. And I'm really glad we did that, because I think this turned out really well.
Because JJ's big time. Once we got her to agree to be on with us idiots, then we thought, damn, we did start reaching out to more people.
Right.
It was going to be about a 4 or 5 interview thing, and we probably wasn't going to do it like we stopped everything else. But once she got involved, we said, damn, we got to keep her.
Yeah.
And we got to actually do this. So like I said, no editing, no script, just people talking about Randy. I hope you enjoy it.
At the Copacabana, the hottest spot.
Our guest is Jim Cox, who is a mutual friend of Randy and ours and mine. And we met Randy at about the same time. It was, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was December of 74 in Aruba. We were playing on a basketball team down there together that was kind of bullshit, but was kind of right. And we got to know Randy well there then. But then Well, I'm going to let Jim take it from here because he was a schoolmate of Randy, and he's got a pretty good tale to tell. Take it away, Cox.
Okay, it's nice to be your guest. Yeah, Randy was amazing. It's funny you mentioned that trip was BS. I remember we got interviewed on TV down there, and Dick had told him that I once scored 75 points in a game. And when the reporter asked me about it, it was a one-on-one game to 100 against my brother. I didn't share that part, but
I think it was against your sister.
yeah, it might have been. Although she could play, Randy was the most amazing athlete I ever met in person. When I first met him, he was so chiseled, just incredible. And then I found out he ran in the '68 Olympics, and he also swam in the Pan Am Games, which to be those two things is just amazing. But when he gets to Carolina, to UNC, there was a rule at Carolina. All freshmen, all students had to pass one credit of PE. Of course, I had to pass more because I majored in it. But the PE course you had to take was your choice unless you couldn't swim, because there was a requirement you had to be able to swim to graduate from UNC. Well, so this was the '70s. This was when a lot of black people did not have, in the South, have access to pools because country clubs wouldn't let them in, and a lot of public pools. And so it was the guy giving the test just assumed racial profiling that Randy couldn't swim. So we go, and Randy and I are going to go out. Randy and I are going to go out to dinner, and we go by the outside pool at UNC, which was called the Navy pool. He said, "Jimmy, actually Cox, let me take the test before we got to dinner. I got to get this out of the way." I said, "No problem." So Randy puts on his swimsuit and goes out to that guy beside the pool. And so that instructor is being really nice, since he's a 6'4" African American basketball player, and he thinks he can't swim. He says, "Okay, let me tell you what you got to do. You got to tread water a certain amount of time. You got to stay afloat a certain amount of times. Doggy paddle." Anyway, he's giving him all this basic, easy stuff to try and pass the test. And this is a competitive swimmer. So Randy tossed me his towel, got to the edge of the pool, and dove in, and does the butterfly stroke, the full length of the pool, does a flip turn, comes back with the backstroke, does a flip turn, goes forward with the freestyle, does another flip turn and comes back with freestyle, and finishes swim. Might have done 6 total laps. And he gets out of the water and looks at the instructor and said, "Did I pass?" and that instructor's eyes are so big, and Randy and I are just laughing. And Randy, if you knew him, had a great laugh. And Randy got his towel and drove. The instructor said, "You absolutely passed. Get out of here." So that was Randy's swim test. And
I wonder how many people took that test did flip turns.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically you just had to tread water. You had to prove you could not drown, but you did. But then nobody did that test, especially not unfortunately, in the early mid '70s, a black basketball player in the South. He just didn't have a lot of them couldn't swim at all, and but boy, he could. And that instructor just was amazed, and I laughed about that. Still laugh about it. It's a great story. Just typical of something Randy would do.
Well, we thank you, Jim. And you told me the story. I never heard that story. You told me a few weeks ago, and as soon as I heard it, I said, maybe that's why we need to do a tribute to Randy. Just for hopefully we get some more like that. Thanks a whole lot for being on, Jim, and hopefully we'll see you on the podcast later.
I'll gladly come anytime. Like I said, I enjoy you guys very much, and y'all take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
'Cause I'm half crazy, feeling sorry for my.
We're talking with Ged Doughton, who started, I didn't even know this. I should have known this, but I didn't. He came into UNC the same year as Randy did, and he's going to tell us. I have no idea where he's going to go with this, but starting school with Randy, there has to be some interesting stuff you have for us. So I'm just going to not even ask you. Could tell us a little bit about starting school with Randy?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting. There were actually a total of 5 of us in the class, and I grew up. I'm the only one that was from North Carolina. Of course, Randy from Curacao. Dudley Bradley was from Maryland. We had Lauren Lutz, who was from Colorado, and then Keith Valentine, who was from Richmond, Virginia. So we had these 5 guys that really came from different places. But Randy was the most interesting right off the bat. Number one, he was older than us. I always thought he was 4 years older than us. Evidently, he was quite a bit older than 4 years older than us. But he was the most interesting person, of the group. And we quickly, were acclimated as a group because, as you guys may know, but Coach Smith, and this was the mid '70s, the fall of 1975, and we were only the fourth class that freshmen were actually eligible to be on the varsity. But Coach Smith really had not, I would say, bought into all that yet. We still got treated like JV guys the whole time, or at least early on, and so Randy and myself and Lauren in particular, the three of us were always pegged together. I think Coach Smith had already decided that he knew how good Dudley Bradley might end up being, who ended up being a 10-year pro, and then Keith Valentine, who ended up transferring. Keith was an extremely talented young man, and quite frankly, if he hadn't transferred, I never would have gotten on the court. We played the same position, but
well, thank God he left then, right?
I've sent him thank you notes every year for the last 40-some years. But Randy quickly was the one that we all leaned into, because he had all these stories, and we started hearing all these stories about his athletic endeavors, in Curacao, between swimming and running. And then when you saw him play basketball, you just went, holy mackerel, this guy can play. And unfortunately for him, like a lot of players that go to a place like Carolina, there are just so many good players. And Randy got stuck, quite frankly, with, Walter Davis played the same position as him, 2 years ahead of us. And really Dudley played the same position, a 2-3. And then the next year, the class brought in a guy named John Virgil, played the same position. And then the next year, here comes Al Wood. So Randy was this very, very good player, but they just kept bringing in guys that were as talented, if not a little bit more talented than him. But we just hit it off. We all lived together on the same hall. I didn't room with Randy, but we spent a lot of time playing together. One of the stories I tell people all the time is, it was in scrimmages. The starting five that year, our freshman year, was Mitch Kupchak at center, Tom Lagarde at forward, Walter Davis at forward, and then John Kuster and Phil Ford. Well, four of those guys got Olympic gold medals, and two of them became, NBA Rookies of the Year. And so we would have these, what I can now say, and as an old man, these stupid scrimmages where, where it would be like me and Randy and Woody Coley and Eric Harry and Lauren Lutz would play these, basically this, NBA All-Star team or Olympic team. And we'd have a 10-minute scrimmage, and we'd get beat by 10. And then Coach Smith at the end of the day would say, Jed, you and Randy's team, it was a 10-minute scrimmage. You lost by 10. That's a 40-point defeat. So get on the line. So we got to run. And in reality, this is why, when you're 18, you can't say anything. But if we only lost by 10 to those guys in 10 minutes, that was a victory. We would have covered every spread in Vegas if that were the truth. They should have been running, not us. But Randy and I started off that way as being teammates on the so-called blue team and getting our rear handed to us on a daily basis by all these all-stars. So that's how it started, and it just kind of grew from there. But
I have a question for you.
Tell me.
And I shouldn't ask this because this could be dragging Randy down, which we're not here to do. But I tried to, when I interviewed him on the show a couple years ago, I tried to push him into, don't you wish you'd have gone somewhere else where you would have played and been a star? Like I played in the MAC. Right. And he would have been a star player where I played, and he wasn't. But he never said bad things about the program, or no. And was that even true amongst you guys?
Yeah, in fact, I thought about this before we got together. The only time I can remember him even remotely moving in kind of a disappointed reaction was one time I recall him saying, what's really difficult is trying to explain to people back home why I'm not playing all the time. I think
Uh-huh.
he understood it, but the world that he came from, I mean, he
Sure.
was the guy. I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't even the best player in my neighborhood. I didn't have to explain anything other than, as you pointed out, how did you get on the team? And
Hey, I didn't say that on the
that's
air.
the only. Well, but you did hurt me a little bit with that before we
Yeah.
started recording. But if I could be hurt anymore by those things, but no, he never did, and I would say that I have had conversations with former players who were 2 and 3 year starters who would still complain about lack of attention, lack of playing time, and I would shake my head. And I never heard Randy Wiel ever complain about the lack of playing time. It was just that one
That's
time
amazing.
and one
That's
time only.
amazing.
I can't really explain this to people back home.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, no,
that would be a tough one.
yeah, it was because again, as we all know, and I hope the listeners know that how in Curacao for the longest time. I mean, he was a hero. He did talk about when he would go home for short visits. It was almost like Phil Ford in the '70s walking into a restaurant. He was bombarded. And Randy would get off a plane in Curacao and share the stories of basically being the home country hero and having a difficult time
Right.
even getting through the concourse. So,
I'll bet. I'll
but he
bet.
never complained. Never
That's
complained.
amazing. Amazing. Anything during your, we're going to cover something afterward, but anything else during your playing days that you'd like to
Well,
share?
so yeah, Earl, being the freak athlete he was one time, and I want to frame this around if people haven't read about Coach Smith, his practices were very structured. I think he described it, and I would agree 100%. He treated it like a classroom situation, and there were assistant coaches there, only two as compared to today's world of having 12 or 13 assistant coaches. But there were only two assistant coaches, but there was only one voice, and that was Coach Smith's. And our job at practice was to listen, perform, play hard, and just do as you were kind of told. Well, one day, Randy, the way I remember it, and he attempted to take a charge, and that was something Coach Smith really wanted us all to do: is to step in front of people, take charges, get hit, draw the offensive foul. And most of us, when we would get hit, and we would roll over and that sweat and try to pick ourselves up. Randy was on his back, and he basically kicked his legs back up over his shoulders, took his arms, his hands, and I think it's called a kip up. He pushed himself up, and the legs just took up into the air, and he bounced up on both feet all in one motion. And Coach Smith, who really doesn't let things get out of control, blew the whistle and just looked at him and said, do that again. So Randy had to get back on his back. And I was telling this story not too long ago to somebody else, and they reminded me that Randy actually did that same thing in a game one time, and that the crowd just erupted when he did it. But he was the only one on the team who was capable of doing that. The rest of us would have never. Like I said, we were rolling over, getting on all fours, and crawling up.
The reason I'm laughing even harder is I've seen him do that move, and amazing. Yeah. I had forgotten all about that, but yeah, it was amazing that he could do that. Okay, I want to move forward now, and you told us a story right before we came on, and I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that you coached, and I didn't know one of your players. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and let you tell it.
Yeah, so. I've been living in Charlotte since 1985, and around the late 80s, I started working with a AAU program here in town. And I always preface this by saying, because that world has changed so dramatically now, what it meant in the late 80s was if you were on an AAU team, you could play. And Charlotte in particular, this team were 12-year-old boys that you had to be invited to try out. And we had probably 75 kids. We'd go around to rec leagues and watch kids play. And, of course, it wasn't too hard to figure out who the best player was. They were either wearing number 23. That told you they were the best player. If they were wearing 23 and they weren't the best player, that identified that the coach was their father. That was the way it worked. But in this case, one of the guys that was on our team as a 12-year-old, and I coached him again when he was 14. He went on to become a very good high school player, and ended up signing with Randy at UNC Ashville. And just loved Randy to death. And this guy's name is Jeff Coble, and Jeff's a very successful business person, investment person here in Charlotte, and now has his own family and had a son that actually played in college as well. But Jeff and I reconnected over the years, and we had lunch together a few weeks ago, and we're reminiscing about, Randy had not passed at that time, and we both were sharing those Randy stories. So Jeff was telling me more about how playing for Randy, how much he enjoyed it. And then Randy ended up taking the job at Middle Tennessee in the middle of Jeff's career. And Jeff said, looking back at it, he really wished he'd gone with Randy. He missed him as a coach, but also as a mentor. But it was just it was a touching story in the sense of here was Randy and I met in 1975, and then I would guess this was probably the mid 90s when Randy might have been at Asheville. I don't have the years exactly right. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys that I coached now was getting to play for Randy. So, and I actually remember those times too, because Jeff's parents, before Jeff signed, Jeff's dad called me in particular and said, "Tell me about Randy. Jeff is really leaning toward that. Would that be a good decision?" I said, "Absolutely. Randy's would be a great person to play for." So, yeah, it's a small world when you start looking at all these years. But somebody you coach when they're 12 ends up playing for Randy Wiel at UNC Ashville. So
it really is. Jed, we could go on, and I'm sorry we're going to have to cut off because
we're good.
There's a lot of other people want to talk on this thing, but we appreciate so much you coming on and sharing more about Randy. And who knows, maybe we'll do another one of these, and I'm sure you have a lot more to say. So we're going to say thank you.
I hope I'm the last one. You're welcome. I hope I'm the last one standing. I'm telling everybody stories. I don't want to be I don't want to be the next one they're telling stories about.
Okay, well, we'll see. All right. Thanks a lot for being on.
You're welcome.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among
This
the
is kind of
stars.
special. We weren't expecting to have Randy's brother on, but we have him, Djuric Wiel, live from Holland, except it's not fucking live, as you know, but it's we have him here, and we're going to ask him a few questions about growing up with Randy, and going to get a different perspective. We've kind of had people with kind of the same perspective, but this is going to be way freaking different than anything we've had before. Okay, first of all, Djuric, what's your age difference from Randy?
We have 10 years. He led me by 10 years because he's from 51, I'm from 61. So when he was 10, and he was my role model, Actually, everything I became, it was just because of Randy, because he was a great athlete, and I wanted to be a sportsman too. So I went into the basketball to become an athlete just like Randy, horseback riding, and everything he did, I did. Except as a musician, he's a great musician. I only play the radio.
I'm good at that too. Okay, the first question is gonna be like from a different perspective though. Mm-hmm. How was it having a policeman as a brother?
Well, that was something else, because I remember when we were kids, I wasn't that that good boy, and everything, when you do something, the first thing they tell, I'm gonna tell your brother, so you was afraid, to pull things out because if your brother happens to know that, then you're in trouble. And I remember all the time we were playing because as a kid, when grew up in Curacao, we had that soccer team or soccer field, but we didn't have a basketball court. We have only one basketball court. So what we did, we went to old schools and just it's not breaking, but we are not allowed to go in there. So we just jump over the fences and stuff and go play basketball. So if they call the police, we are in trouble. And most of the time, when they call the police, your brother's gonna show up, so you don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was funny. It was funny.
Did you ever get in trouble from your brother because he was a policeman?
Well, as long as we remember, no, I never. Because when he was the bigger brother. You know what I'm saying? So he was the role model, and I was behaved nice when he was around. But when he's not around, nobody believed that he's my brother because they say, "Are you the brother of Randy?" That can't be. I can't believe that because you understand. So that's the way it was going down when it was down back in Curacao.
So okay, you said Randy was your role model, but you never wanted to be a policeman, did you?
No, absolutely not, absolutely not. No, but Randy was something else because I remember when he finished high school, he told my mom, he said, "Mom," because he was always crazy about horses and the old Western movie. And I remember when I was a kid, we could catch what was the series name? Roy Rogers.
Right.
That was Roy Rogers and the Lone Ranger. And that was Randy's favorite. All the time he was fooling around running on a broom. That was his horse, and yelling "Hi-yo, Silver" all the time. I remember that. So he told my mom that after high school, he don't want to do no school because he wanted to become a police officer. Like a cowboy. He didn't have the horse, but that was his wish, and he became an officer. I remember he was not even 18. He wasn't allowed to become a police officer because he was 17. But because he was a great athlete and the police force used him to attract more young people to get to come in the police force.
Okay.
So he was a role model, so they were using him. So he became an officer. He was 17.
Wow. I didn't know that. Didn't know. Mm-hmm. Okay, we tell you mentioned his athletic prowess and what a great athlete he was.
Yeah,
he was your older brother. At what point did you realize his athletic abilities aren't like a normal fucking person's? His athletic abilities were far above. When did you realize that?
That there's something else. I was talking to Bill about that. Is to me, Randy, I would see Randy was just my brother. I didn't seem like a great athlete or famous people, And by the time, he was a swimmer. I remember we went as a kid, me and my dad and family, he was competing as a swimmer and he beats everybody. So, I was a kid, I was bragging around, nobody can beat my brother. My brother swims as Tarzan, because he was a good swimmer. And after that, he was doing the 100-meter dash. He beats everybody. But I never realized that he was a superhuman. So the things, because as a kid, you don't realize the thing he was doing was extraordinary, But later, I realized when I came to Holland, because I came to Holland to do, the same thing, physical education like Randy did. And then I realized how tough it was, to compete in different kind of sports. And I mean, on a high level. I mean, come on, that's not normal, And I think, yes, and at that time I realized, I said, damn, this guy is something else, bro. He's really something else. Because I mean, after a workout, I was broken. And this guy was like like a V8 motor, car motor. I said, wow, this is extraordinary.
No, you're right, because Djuric, you or me or Tiny, when we die, they're not going to be doing a thing for us because we don't have those talents,
No,
Most people
no.
don't.
Well, maybe in your case, they'll take the bottle.
You do remember me.
Of course. Maybe they take a case of Budweiser. This is to Dave.
I didn't mention Djuric came to our camp years ago, and I didn't think he remembered me, but based on that right there,
I remember everything. I remember everything because it was you that gave Bill the nickname Fog. I think. I remember that.
That was a good nickname, and the people are going to hear. I gave your brother a good. I'm not gonna ruin it now. This is a tease for later on in the show, but I gave your brother a nickname that was pretty damn appropriate too. But we'll just leave it at that because I'm going to talk about that shortly. And the other thing I got, the main thing I got. I don't know if it's the main thing, but do you have more than 24 hours a day in Curacao? Because how could Randy be so good at all these sports? He spoke all those languages. He was a great musician, and he knew all about the horses. How the fuck did he do all this shit?
Get that? Well, there's something. I keep asking myself, how is this possible? Is he normal human being? And me and Bill was talking about that the last time we were in Curacao. I said, Bill, this guy is something else. Now I realize because Bill was, he got the same thought. He told me, he said, for somebody who wasn't born in America, to be so great, there's something else. And this guy, he was good at a lot of things. And going back to your question, Randy was a police officer. I remember I was in high school. He came from his job in the morning after the night shift. He came from his job. He went, we went to cut grass just among the, go to the countryside and just get off the car, cutting grass for the horses. He go take care of his horses in the morning without sleeping. And after, about 10 o'clock in the morning, he finished about 7 o'clock. About 10 o'clock in the morning, he go back home, take a shower, and take a rest. For about 2, 3 o'clock, he's up working out. He take his ball, go work out. And I keep asking myself, as a kid, you don't understand that because for me it was just I saw it as a routine. He come from his work, go take care of the horses, he go work out, and he go track and field, come back home, rest, and at 7, at 8, he was on the basketball court. Don't ask me how. And Randy was always a go-getter. It's always a go-getter. It was not. It's like he had some friends here in Holland. They play guitar, and when they say that Randy, we start at 8 o'clock. Dave, make sure you be there at 8 o'clock because if you're not there, he'd be pissed off. Randy would be pissed off, and I remember he was in the band here. He went for 2 weeks and he quit. I said, Randy, why? That's not your style. And he just told me, he said, Jerry, when we do music, we do it on a high level. Those guys was just hanging in the bar, and come to practice late. And he was there with his guitar already playing, and those guys came, hey, what's happening, bro? He's like, no, that's not my style. So he quit. He quit because he said, when you do it, you have to do it at a high level or don't count with him. And that was Randy, always a go-getter.
Right. Yeah. Okay. This is going to be one of our final questions, maybe the final. Mm-hmm. This could be a tough one for you. Is there anything like when this was over, you'd say, boy, I wish he would have asked me this because I wanted to tell this story. Is there a story that you really would like to an interesting thing or whatever, the floor is yours now. Tell us whatever you want to tell about Randy, because you have a different perspective than anyone we've talked to.
Well, um, I've heard so many stories about Randy, and I remember when he went to the stage. It was like we're from a small island, and he's in the big United States. So everybody, what I was thinking, like my brother, nothing can happen to him because he was my superhero. That
Right.
he was my superhero, and when he told me, and then I started realizing because he went to UNC, of course, and it was at that time at that time still is one of the biggest college in the United States.
Sure.
And so I remember I was telling everyone, "Oh yeah, my brother went to the States, play basketball." And oh, yeah, he's a professional. I had no clue that college was different than the NBA, of course. So to me, he was a professional. But with Randy, when I spoke to Randy and he told me, I said, "Randy, how did you play?" He said, "I didn't play yet." I said, "What do you mean you didn't play yet?" He said, "Yeah, because." And then, at that time I realized, because I remember when he told me that, I said, "Who's your coach?" Like, I'm coming after him. So that was, oh, you mean my brother to sit on the bench? That can be not my brother. And then he was telling me, he said, Jory, this is a different ball level. I said, "Well, really?" He said, "Yeah, because back home he was the superstar, and now he was in the States, and he came playing with guys at that time: Phil Ford, Mitch Kupchak, Waller Davis, Tommy Lagarde. I mean, they're all American stars.
Right.
So I didn't expect, I didn't know them at the time. So I thought, how you mean? He must be better than one of them. So why ain't he playing? And then, he started telling me how practice was, this was different. And then I realized, oh, that's why they're great there over there, it's with kind of sport. And I said, I really wish that he went to the States, a couple of years earlier,
Earlier. Yeah.
because
Sure.
by the time he went to the States, he was a grown up man with
Yeah.
kids and family already, with a lot of history.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's the thing, I always say, oh my God, if he had a chance to go to the States as a teenager, I think he was bigger than he was. Let me put it that way. And there's something, after all, that I'm really, really proud of him from everything, he did and he accomplished. Let me put it that way. Really.
I agree with all
So
that. And hey, I think Djuric, we can't thank you enough for being on here. Like I said, you gave us
it
a
was a pleasure
different.
to me, Dave.
Okay, all right, and you're going to start fucking watching our show from now on, right?
Of course. Of course. I'm going to watch
Okay.
you guys.
Okay. Thank you very much, Djuric.
Thank you.
To give us a different insight, we have Lisa Langley Fay that knows Randy a little different from what a lot of the people that we've talked to here have. And let's just get to the point. Lisa, how did you meet Randy?
Well, it was interesting. I was a freshman at Carolina, and Randy, gosh, he'd been out of school for a while. And my cousin played JV ball at Carolina, my cousin Tim Lucas. And so when I first came to Carolina, because I was Luke's little cousin, I got to know a bunch of the basketball players. And when they came back into town, I was there my freshman summer. I just knew some of the other basketball guys, and Randy was just one of those guys that emerged from camp. And there used to be a bar everybody went to called Purdy's, and I just met him with a bunch of the other basketball guys. it was just, a real simple introduction. And I really didn't know that much about him at the time.
And okay, now I met you through Randy, and I've known you for years, and obviously known Randy for years. But just in our talk here 3 minutes ago, you tell me that you did a research project on Randy in school, and I had never heard that before. So I think we got to hear, what the hell was that all about?
Well, it was, I was a radio, television, motion picture major at Carolina. And one of the projects was to do some research on somebody. Now, this is way, way, way before the internet. And I knew enough about Randy to know that he had been a significant athlete prior to coming to Carolina. I had met you at that point. I had met your brother Dick, who was Randy's good friend as well. And so I had heard kind of these stories, and I was like, well, I could research something really boring that I don't know or don't care about, or I could research about my friend Randy. So that's really when I learned, wow, what an amazing athlete was. He'd been in the Pan Am Games in one sport. He'd gone to the Olympics in another sport. And then your brother had met him in Curacao and talked to Coach Smith. And all of a sudden, here he ends up at Carolina playing basketball. And then he goes on and coaches. And I had known from seeing and hearing him play guitar that he was just an amazing musician. And it really gave me a lot of context for his journey and what a different life he had led than anybody else in the world I had ever met at that point in time.
and you did this, and he didn't even know you were doing it, right?
Oh, no, he had no idea. And like I said, I just did it for a class. And after I turned it in, I had like pictures from the Carolina Sports Information Office that they had given me, printouts of stories that I had found from different newspapers or that kind of thing. And I just put it all together in a big scrapbook. I don't even think I ever gave him the paper. I just gave him all the research stuff I'd done, because I figured some of it he may never have even seen.
Right.
So it was pretty cool. And he was really touched by it and kind of blown away. He's like, "Oh my God, where did you find this stuff?" And we talked about it. I don't know. It's been decades ago, and we were talking about it once, and he goes, "I still have that book."
Oh, wow.
With all that stuff. It's a better book than I could have ever put together on myself. So that always made me feel really good. And it gave me such an appreciation of how talented he was, which, if you put that beside what a nice man he was, and personable, and he always laughed, and he always was very inclusive with people around him. And he had like all these different sections of his life that you would never, ever know about it. And I was with him one time when he took a phone call. And I swear he took like 4 phone calls, and all 4 were in different languages. Because he'd like be hello. And then he'd go into Papiamento, and he'd say hello. And then he'd go into Dutch, and he'd say hello. And all I would say was, "Okay, what language was that?"
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's crazy.
It is.
And you mentioned that he gave you an appreciation of the world, I guess, and now you're a world traveler. And do you think he influenced you becoming a world traveler?
Absolutely. When I met him, I was a girl from a small town of 800 people in North Carolina. I didn't even understand the word passport, much less have one. And his broad sense of the world and his inclusiveness and everything allowed you to have conversations that were just so different than some of the conversations I had with other people who hadn't lived internationally and been grown up internationally, but then traveled the world as he had done. And it just piqued my interest as something that I wanted to do. That and like my best friend from Carolina, my girlfriend, she was had grown up or gone to high school in Geneva. And she encouraged me when I graduated in my senior year. And she said, if you don't go now, you'll never go. And, you know, I went all these places I'd read about, I'd heard about. And now I finished this year at 119 countries.
Wow.
And that doesn't, I have to leave the airport and move around. That doesn't count a touchdown, right? So it made me, I think, see the world differently, but also see people differently, and made me more curious about, the differences that we all have, but how in the end, we're all just people who have the same dreams, the same hopes, go through some of the same frustrations, and we're all way, way, way more alike than we are different.
Okay. I know you could go on and on because everyone could, but we're going to stop you right there in your nice apartment that overlooks Atlanta while we're in a freaking garage right now, and it's snowing to beat hell outside. So,
well, let me be
Randy,
clear.
I guess. Go ahead.
I own this view. I don't rent it. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, so Randy had different effects on, you're seeing 119 countries and I'm in this piece of shit, place with Tiny, but I'm appreciating it the same way. Thank you so much for being part of this. And, thank you.
Thank you for including me.
Okay. We're happy to have Vern Nelson tell us a few stories about Randy today. Vern came up, like several of the other people that have been in this podcast, came up through basketball camp, kind of how I met Randy, same thing with Vern. And then he became a counselor. And tell us what you think about Randy, Vern.
Well, I met Randy when I was, goodness gracious, I was 10 or 11. So needless to say, he was a mountain of a man. And now that I'm older, do y'all remember back years ago when Dos Equis had the commercials, and the guy
Yes.
said, I don't drink beer very often, but when I do, I do. And they called him the most interesting man in the world. That's what I would call Randy. Anybody, this has nothing to do with athletics. Anybody that can speak 6 or 7 languages, play in a jazz band, sing, well, not very well, but sing, was a policeman, raised horses, just all the things he did, and none of those have anything to do with athletics. He was just a Renaissance man who could have a conversation with anybody about anything, and that's always what impressed me about Randy. He never put on airs of he thought he might be better than somebody. He was always right in line with whoever it was he was talking to, whether it was a CEO or a custodian. He could fit in with whoever he was talking to.
I'm shocked you use the word Renaissance. That's
Well,
what I'm surprised at.
Don't ask me to spell it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get right into some Randy stories now about the Renaissance man. And you have one about when we were all together, and I can't. Was it Aruba or Curacao?
It was
And
it was
okay,
it
go
was
ahead.
actually it was actually Aruba. I don't know if you've ever spoken of this, but back in '85, Dick and Randy put together a team of basically counselors, and we called ourselves Team USA, and we went on a worldwide tour of of playing basketball in the islands of Aruba and Curacao against their local their local teams. And we all knew that Randy was from that area, but you didn't know how, I guess for lack of a better term, how famous he was. And we went out to dinner one night, and as we tended to do back in the middle '80s, probably had few too many beverages, and
Probably.
thought we had settled the bill, and ended up leaving.
Oh no.
Well, come to find out the next day, we had not settled up the bill. And Randy was so famous in the island that they knew where he was staying, and someone slipped the bill underneath his hotel door for him to pay.
I remember that well, and that was amazing because we thought we were getting away with something.
Yep.
I'm not even sure you knew that we were doing that because we all did have too many beverages. I was kind of in on it, but the other thing I bet is you probably didn't put in your fucking share.
Oh, no. I had a 20 and I couldn't break it.
Okay, you mentioned this one was good. I had never heard this before, and I forget it now. So we used to play a game called 5,000. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'll try to keep this as short as possible. 5,000 is a dice game played with 5 die, and the objective is to score 5,000 points, or on successive rolls, roll all ones. So you build scores to 5,000, or it can score the 5 ones. So Randy, uh, he kind of introduced us. It was a game that I think that they played at Carolina when he was on the basketball team, and he introduces us to it, and we're playing this game. And every time Randy would roll non-scoring roll, he would look, he'd go, "Come on, baby mama," and I'm thinking, my God, what is he saying? And he had this whole glossary of terms that he would throw out, and I didn't understand any of them. Well, come to find out, he spoke, or in Aruba they speak a language called Papiamento, and he was basically cursing in Papiamento and all these different words. So years later, I was talking to my wife about her coaching, and she said she can't curse at the kids. So I told her she needs to curse at them in Papiamento. So she goes, well, how do you do that? So I sent Randy a text. He sent me a text with 14 spelled words with a definition of 14 Papiamento curse words. Very detailed. So I've got a glossary, and I don't want to upset anybody, so I won't go into the glossary of the Papiamento curse words, but just know that Kuma be mama is not a good word.
I think you're right. For this, it wouldn't be appropriate. But when we get back to our regular podcast, maybe we can share that with the viewers because
Yes.
it would be more than appropriate for
I
them.
agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most people know that have been watching this now that Randy was a tremendous swimmer. And there was a swim race that not only was I a witness to, I think, as I recall, I think I was the starter and the judge also, but I was not a participant. And
Well,
our esteemed guest was a participant. So I'm going to let him tell the story of this famed swim race.
Well, first of all, I don't know about famed, but Randy was never Randy was a very humble individual, and he would never, unless specifically asked or goaded, he would never, for lack of a better term, brag about any of his accomplishments. Well, I had heard through, just us talking as counselors that he swam in the Pan Am Games. And I'm thinking, first of all, he's from Aruba, and second of all, he's a black guy, so I know he can't swim. So I said, "Well, I'm sure I can beat him in a race." So we had time between sessions at camp, and the camp at St. Mary's had a pool underneath the gym. So we were in the pool and we were just messing around, and I think it was just counselors, to be honest with you. I don't think there were any kids there, and so I started to harass Randy. You can't swim. I can outswim you, this, that, and the other. And I'm going back and forth. So I finally said something that really pissed him off. So he said, okay. He said, we're going to race. I said, okay, up and back. He goes, no, 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 you have no shot. He said, I'll go up and back. You just have to go one. And now it's an Olympic pool. So it's, I think they're 50 meters. So he had to go 100 meters and I had to go 50 meters. So Dave, as the starter, hollers go, and I'm just, I got to go half the pool. He's got to go two. This is not. I mean, this is no contest. So he takes off and he's swimming, and I'm kind of, floating and going, doing my hands back like this, and then all of a sudden I look, dude's 3/4 of the way. and, and I've only moved, maybe 20 feet. So in my mind I go, oh my God, he's going to beat me. So I'm the cartoon character slapping the water, trying to go, Dave, it was bang bang. I beat him, but he almost swam the entire length.
This much.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't by much. And then it's one of those when you get done. I was happy. I wanted to embarrass myself, but I can just remember standing there going, could hardly breathe, and I only swam like 40 meters. So anyway, Randy was obviously an expert medal winning swimmer, and he proved it to me that day.
So I have one more tale to tell, and it's upstairs from where you just talked about in the gym at St. Mary's.
Oh,
and
gosh.
The afternoon camp had kind of ended, and we didn't have the same thing we did all the time. But my brother took the entire camp into the classroom to talk, and that left me and you and Randy and your brother and Rich. And Rich might have still been playing for Duke and your brother for Wofford, and Randy was playing pro ball. But I know I sure as hell wasn't playing, and I think your career was done too. I think you were.
Even if I was still playing, my career was done.
Exactly. So I said something like, there were just the five of us in this gym, and the dinner at the cafeteria didn't start for like a half hour. So as a smart ass, I said, well, what do you guys want to do? But as a real smart ass, it was you that said, fast break drills. And you said it as a, even though you said it as a joke, everybody kind of looked around, and then all of a sudden, fucking Randy went over and tightened his shoes, and I said, fuck, we got to do this, because he was that powerful of a human being as soon as he tightened his shoes. So we ran. Okay, two of us that have no fucking career, that didn't have one very much anyway, us two. It's 3-on-2, 2-on-1. I don't know.
No.
That is a killer when you have 8 people. When you have 5 people, there's no rest. And there's us 2 fucking people that have nothing to do with, and we're going up and down and up and down. And we're serious too. And I'm not even sure I could eat dinner that day because I was almost throwing up. I hadn't run like that in 12 years at least, because you fucking said fast break drills, and had you known Randy was going to go tighten his shoes, you would have never fucking said that.
Would have never ever said that. And I know Rich, and Rich was Rich was lacing up his sneakers and
Yeah,
ready to go as
exactly.
well.
But if it was just Rich or just your brother tighten up your shoes, we'd have said, "Oh, fuck you, we're not really doing that." But it was because Randy tightened his shoes. We didn't have balls enough to say, "No, we're not." That was
If
just a
Randy, hey,
joke.
if Randy's going to do it, if the guy's playing pro ball, if he's going to do the fast break drill, then shit, us guys got to do it too.
You're right. That doesn't mean I'm happy about it.
No, gosh,
Okay, so
I don't remember that, but I am 100% sure that it happened. And
it
I thought
definitely
you were going to
happened.
go into I thought you were going to go into where he parroted Dick in that same room. He would stand up there, and Dick would give the plus minus score, for shots made, shot missed, and
Plus
all that.
6, minus
It-
4.
and then for a grand
And
total
total?
of.
Well, we could go on with a lot
I
more.
see this.
We
Yeah.
absolutely could, but we're not going to. Vern, thanks for being on with us, and
Thanks for having me, Dave.
happy trails.
I appreciate everything. Thanks for what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Unforgettable. That's what you
To
want.
tell us some things about Randy, we have JJ Miller with us, who I didn't know until about 25 minutes ago, and she's the most important person we probably have on here. I'm not going to get into her whole thing because I really don't know her whole thing, but after she got in touch with us, and all I saw was Oprah and Gayle King and Katie Couric, and I said, "Oh, I'm intimidated already, so I'm not going to go on." The only thing that I felt a kinship is that she worked in the North UNC basketball office, and I said, "Okay, there's something I can relate to there." But we're just going to let her kind of take the stage here. But I think it goes back to when she was working in the UNC basketball office, and Randy was the assistant coach. And JJ, tell us what you know.
Well, I think that the reason I reached out is because I heard the interview you guys did, and I was just so grateful that it existed because you so captured him. And I thought, and so I reached out to say this was great. Like, this was just so fantastic. And then they said they were working on this, and of course, I agreed to be a part of it. I think that I've worked for a bunch of amazing people, but that first job at Carolina was certainly some of the greatest of the greats that I've ever worked with, from Coach Smith to Randy. I mean, he was an extraordinary person, and he was so much so that when I was a journalism student, and we had to do a picture story at the end of the year. And I thought, well, I'm doing it on him. Like, that guy's amazing. He does all these things. And I imagine, like, I can have him doing music and with the horses and then basketball. Like, I had all, and when I turned it in, the guy was like, it's all right. Like, you didn't really capture it the way that I had hoped you would, because to me, like, just the biography was so much. And I think what that taught me was, like, he is so much more than just the biography. He, like, that assignment showed me, like, I hadn't captured, I don't know how you would have, but he was way more than just his biography, which in itself is extraordinary. I mean, he was it's like, the Pan Am Games for swimming, the Olympics for running, Division I basketball, Jazz Musician of the Year in North Carolina. He was raised horses and spent tons of time breeding and raising horses. I mean, he just was one of these Renaissance men who could do so many things well. And it was funny, when we were at his service in Curacao, his brother was saying they had been in the same band when they were young, and the Honeybees. But Mervyn got kicked out of the Honeybees because Randy was like, "You're not practicing enough. You're not committed enough." And he said, like, when Randy was given the choice, like, go to a party or practice, he was always going to practice. And so I think I was watching him, just work so hard at so many things and striving for excellence in so many different ways. And that was a formative thing to watch. I mean, to see all of the people at Carolina, from the secretaries in the office to the players to the surrounding team to, of course, the coaches, drive for such excellence was really something to behold, and it changes who you are and how you approach the work you do. And so that was a pretty intense experience.
One thing went through his whole list there, and what's crazy is one thing you never said was that he spoke 7 languages, and like think of how many people that would be their like tagline, right? And you're like, oh yeah, by the way, like that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's what I mean. I was telling him at my daughter's school they didn't have language, and he was like, "Well, that's terrible. Like that is like you need to move schools. Like that is ridiculous." And I was like, "Okay, well, okay." And I changed her school. And I just like once she got to high school, I was like, he's right. That is such a skill that changed his life and the way he could move in the world and coach anywhere and be with anyone and understand any. Language is a window into a culture, and he understood that. I appreciated the conversation you guys had with him about your native language, but I thought that it was also pretty incredible that he could communicate and relate to so many people in so many different ways in so many different languages. It was and music as well, which is its own language.
And then you befriended him when you were in college, but obviously the relationship continued through till death. Tell us a little bit about how you stayed in touch with him and how that all went down.
Well, we lost touch for a long time, and he went to Asheville and Tennessee and then Holland. It was definitely not, we were not in very good touch. He would come into New York sometimes when he was going back home. He would, because his brother was living in New York, and we saw each other for dinners a couple of times. And, I got to introduce him to my family, and that was really interesting and fun. But we didn't really connect again until I had posted a picture of my daughter on Facebook dancing in front of Notre Dame, and he reached out and said, hey, your daughter's adorable, and like you should take her to Marseille, and da 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 da. So we got in touch, and he said, I have cancer, right? And I knew he did, because he had told me a few years before he had prostate cancer. But stupid, I thought, oh, that's not a big one. Like that'll be okay. That's not that big of a deal. And then he said, no, it's pancreatic. And I thought, did I just mishear a few years ago? Because like that's actually quite serious. And then, it had been a year by the time we were talking that he had been living with it. And I thought, he seems okay. Like, this is so interesting. And one of the things that I thought was so true about him that Connie talked about in the service was that he lived every minute of his life. He really, he was never, he really approached his diagnosis with this is something I'm living with, but I'm going to live. And I love that about him. It's a lesson for me moving forward, no matter what comes across, whatever happens, and there will be things I know, I take that as a way forward.
And there's so much about him, but you kind of knew him on a different level than a lot of us. Is there anything you'd like to just tell the people it's hard, I know, because there's so many, he's such a multifaceted person, but you're one person I think that could give us a different angle than most people can.
Well, I think we became very close towards the end of his life, the last 10 years. And I think he had mellowed. I don't know if I would have been friends with him during the 70s, 80s, 90s, which I love to say to him, oh yeah, I was 2 then. When he would say that happened in 1974, I was like, yeah, I was born, I was 2. And so, so I liked to tease him about that we were from different generations, because we did look at the world very differently. But I think what was extraordinary about him was not his biography. I think it was the way he approached the world, and especially people, with such deep curiosity and interest. And, he was not politically correct whatsoever. He did not think that was important. But he deeply valued people, and he deeply respected people. He approached people and culture and with deep reverence and interest and curiosity. And knowledge. And so I thought that was such a weird like juxtaposition. I didn't, but he wore it so easily. Like it was who he was. Like in the end, he was, you know, a 70-year-old guy from the Caribbean. And like that was just a part of who he was. And he was also probably the most well-traveled person I knew. And those were a little bit in conflict, I thought, in my head, but not for him. He wore them both so easily. He wore them both so well. Like he never wanted to become an American citizen. He loved and was so proud of being from Curacao and being Dutch. And I just found like all of these little sort of moments of and facets of his actual personality, not his biography, fascinating. And how do you wear all of that so easily? Like he was truly one of the most accomplished people I've ever met and will ever meet. But he also, and he had super confidence. I wouldn't say, but he had no arrogance. He did not have like some massive ego, at least not when I knew him. And you know, he had mellowed for sure, but he was, I mean, how do you wear both of those so easily? I don't know the answer to that. There's not many people who do. There's not many people who are able to do that. I don't know why he wasn't more sort of famous, because I don't know anyone like him. I never will. I never have. And I just kept thinking, you know, maybe that's why that he wore both of those so easily, but because he could walk down the street and not be bothered in any way.
He seemed like if he wanted to be famous, he could have been very easily, though, right?
Or maybe he would have been more famous, JJ, if you would have done that documentary, despite his wishes, then everyone would know about him now.
I know. I'm not sure that was his goal. I don't think that was that part of it was not interesting to him. I think he wanted to be known by Xander and Connie as like who he really was. I think he wanted to be known by people he cared about. And that was just enough. Like, I don't think that was his ambition at all. I think that he wanted to keep pushing himself. Like, at the end of his life, he was always saying, oh, I'm getting this new, like, piano book that's got all these new chords. And I was like, what? Like, are you doing? And he was like, I mean, all the time, not just, like, once in a while. Like, I mean, at least 20 times he probably had gotten some new book that he wanted to learn and improve. And to me, I was like, you know, so many people have an end game in mind, and he didn't seem to have that. He just wanted to improve for the sake of improvement. Like, that's so unusual. That really is unusual. Like, there was not a goal. It was just what he enjoyed, was getting better at stuff and being good at stuff. And I thought it was so funny that his brother said when they were in the same band when they were kids, the Honeybees, that Mervyn got kicked out of the band because Randy said he wasn't practicing enough and he wasn't committed enough and didn't want to improve. And, you know, Mervyn was like, if Randy had the choice between going to a party or practicing, he would practice. And that was true his whole life. I don't know what that is. Like, how do you get that drive that's not leading you to a place? It's unusual. It's very unusual.
Sure.
All right. Last question, JJ. And this is a tough one. I'm glad I'm asking it and not having to answer it. What is the final thing or final things that you want people to know about Randy? Because there's so much, and you've already touched on some, but you could go so much further. But we're going to limit you here. What's the last thing you want you want the people that are watching this to know about this incredible person?
He is the most fun person to ever be around. The guy was just so much fun. His humor was hilarious. His laugh was infectious. You always felt like George Lynch said to me when the weekend that he passed, he just always lit up a room. And people love to say that about people. Like, you hear that a lot. He really actually did. Like, he would come into a room and you're just like, like, now it's fun. Like, now it's getting started. Like, this is good. And when he left this, you know, like a lights out, you know, it feels like it's not as bright and shining. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, JJ. We so much appreciate you coming on here and sharing some of what you know about Randy, because we feel the same way. That's why we're doing this. And good luck to you, and we appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
talk about Randy during this segment is an old friend of mine, Richard Ford. And Richard played for Duke. He graduated from Duke. That's pretty good. And went on to law school and has his own podcast and does a whole lot of stuff that I'm not going to get all into because we're here to talk about Randy. And Richard has some good thoughts and stories, I think. I don't really know, but we're turning it over to him.
All right. Thanks, Dave. I think I want to start by talking a little bit about relationships. And this is a little more on the serious side. We'll get to some fun stuff here. Just hold tight.
Good.
But, you and I, we've reached an age where I think we're going to more funerals than weddings.
Correct.
And that phase of your life, you're looking at what relationships mean. And Randy was a very important relationship to me. We weren't super close, and close and important don't mean the same thing as I'm looking at relationships now, in the fourth quarter of my life. We've talked about this. If this is a high school basketball game, I feel like it's the beginning of the fourth quarter, and
at least you're at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I
got the last shot.
But Randy and Dick, they were very, very important. I was close to Dick. I wasn't as close to Randy, but those were kind of anchor relationships. And I went through my adult life with varying degrees of interaction with both of them, but having them, knowing that they were there, added to my life. And your brother said to me once, he judged his relationships based on whether they added to his life or subtracted from his life. And Randy added to my life in so many ways. And it's really a privilege to be able to talk a little bit about why. And I listened to that interview that you did, that 2-part interview with Randy, which was phenomenal. But I have to tell you, Dave, I was shocked at how disciplined you were and at how disciplined Randy was, because my recollection is that when you two got together, it was like trying to keep up with a pinball on steroids that was bouncing around, or a toddler with an Etch-a-Sketch. Randy could change topics in 2 sentences, and I think you were the only one I've ever seen who was able to not only keep up with Randy through all those twists and turns, but you could change the subject to what you wanted to do. would say, I love the way that he had some phrases, and when he was talking to you and he was trying to redirect you or kind of talk above you, he'd say, "No, Dave, no." And then that was a warning that we're about to take a sharp turn. You better buckle up. But it takes a special gift to have that kind of conversation. I can't do it. You and Randy could do it, and you're storytellers. And I think that's such a valuable piece of what you do on the podcast. But I wish that people could have seen in real time you and Randy going at it in your natural habitat. It's really impressive. I'm wearing my Duke hat, and one of the things that Randy and I shared, was both the disdain and the mutual respect of the Duke Carolina relationship. And when I first met Randy, I guess he came to. He was at UNC from 75 to 79. I think he may have come to Dick's camp a year or two earlier than that. I don't remember.
I think you're right. He might have come that first year. I'm not sure though either. And then let's just give some. When were you at Duke?
So 80 to 84. So my freshman year was Coach K's first year, and I started as a walk-on, and then got a athletic scholarship, full scholarship, and then I was a team captain my senior year. But I came on the road less traveled, and Randy sort of did as well. We think we shared that in common too. He had a really way more interesting pathway than I had.
Than everybody.
Yeah. But I think So I was when I watched the funeral in Curacao. It was a lovely funeral, and Randy's lovely wife Connie really made some powerful comments. I'm really glad that I listen to that. But one of his nieces spoke on behalf of all the nieces and nephews. He had a huge family. I didn't know that. One of the things, our relationship with Randy was kind of cabined a bit through the summer camps and basketball. It was kind of basketball centric. But he lived in so many different worlds. We got maybe a glimpse here and there, but it was really a beautiful glimpse to see that service in Curacao. And his older brother spoke first, and he was talking about how big their family was. He had 6 siblings, which I didn't know, and there were 17 people at one point living in their house that had 1 bathroom. And,
damn!
And the dad, his brother said that it was frequent that they would have all those people and then friends come and hang out on the balcony. And he said that Randy was always the orchestra leader. So Randy was kind of always the person that sort of set the tone for the interactions. And he had that kind of personality.
We certainly believe that.
We believe that.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that was so beautiful about him. He just had a big, powerful personality, and he could take over a room, but always in the best of ways, and with humor, with a smile, with anecdotes from all the other pieces of his life that we just got a little glimpse of. But I think that when I think back on Randy's relationship that I had with him, it is primarily basketball, which was not the case with Dick. When Dick and I got together, it was rare that we talked about basketball. We talked about everything else. With Randy, it was kind of basketball centric, but I paid attention to him because he was such a powerful personality, and I had enormous respect for him. And I remember when we went to visit him in April, when he was getting worse, and it was getting to a point where it was pretty clear that he probably wasn't going to make that comeback. I went through my photos. I went through the archives because I wanted to pull out anything that would help me remember those times, but also kind of how I saw Randy. And I took a number of photos over the camp years, and I had this one photo of Randy sitting in a sweltering, empty dorm room in whatchamacallit, North Carolina in late July or early August. Back then there was no air conditioning. And he's sitting in the middle of the room playing his guitar, and he would play for hours and hours and hours, and he would kind of get lost within himself. And I always wondered, like, what's he thinking about? What's going on? But he could have been playing basketball. We were all, in the gym playing basketball. Randy was at a point in his career he didn't have to prove anything there. He was playing professionally in Holland. But his true passion, I think, was his music and also his horses. And those were 2 pieces of his life that we didn't really get to see that much. But I did see the music piece. And I also saw him perform a couple times in Chapel Hill in the late 70s. And he was just a beautiful musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I think one of the reasons that he and Dick hit it off so well was that Dick was similar in that regard. He had a lot of different interests, and basketball was just a piece of what he did. And he and Randy kind of shared that. But that photo kind of defines how I see him. And
any chance we can get a copy of that photo?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And I don't know if you could overlay it,
sure.
Techno stuff. But there's a pensive quality about it where you can tell he's deep in thought. And I never interrupted him when he was playing. Never. For 2 reasons. One, I wanted to hear the music. But second, he might have tossed me out of his room. I don't know.
That, or you would have got no, Rich.
Rich. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that reminds me. The other thing he would always say is, this was sort of the warning that a story was coming, the story alert. He said, "And let me tell you." And let me tell you. You remember that, Dave?
I do.
And let me tell you, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
awesome.
Oh gosh.
That's awesome.
And we talked a little bit about this in the pregame. You know, his niece was talking about at the funeral about how he was a hero to her. Randy was like a hero to me when I was just maybe 12, 13 when he started coming to in the 1970s. And, you know, he's a very physically imposing person. You know, he's a big, powerful person, and exceptionally smart. He spoke 4 languages, maybe 5.
I think 5 or 6 actually.
5 or 6, yeah. And he was kind of intimidating to me in that regard. And then, you know, so that's how I saw him, as sort of this hero figure. And then as I started my career at Duke, we started to share that Duke Carolina rivalry piece in a civil way. But it was, I think I felt like after my career at Duke, I felt like we had that thing in common, and we would talk about it and we'd give each other crap. But it's also a special bond because that's a pretty exclusive club.
Sure.
It had to be cocky, but you know, it's a shared experience for players from both schools, and that's something I think a lot of fans don't understand. That there's an enormous respect for that rivalry, even though when you take the court, you know, all bets are off, and it's war. But we managed that, and he never let me forget a Carolina victory. In fact, when we had that basketball reunion, I think it was in 2022, summer of 2022, or maybe 2023. I saw him, and I was wearing a Duke hat, and he just hadn't talked to him in a long time, and he just came up to me and said, "Rich, let's talk about that game in Cameron." It was Coach K's last game, and all the former players went. And I was at that game. It was an incredible experience, except for the outcome. But UNC won that game, of course.
I remember.
In the Final Four, they met again for the first time ever, and Carolina won as well. So Randy was very quick to put me in my place like that. You know, when I grew up in Durham, and I went to Duke games as a kid, and so from the late '60s. So I saw your brother play. I saw Dick play.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, in the late '60s, and he was, you know, he became my basketball hero. I wanted to be just like him because of the way he played, and I was a little lefty and
little white lefty.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I got it.
And so I kind of, he was my basketball idol. But you know, Randy played in some really important games at Carolina, and one was the Duke Carolina game in 1979. I believe it was the last home game at Duke. Jim Spanarkel, whose Duke team had just come off a national championship appearance a year before under Bill Foster. It was his senior night, and Carolina decided that they were going to take the air out of the ball in the first half. That was that game that was 7-0 at halftime. Do you remember that?
Damn. Jeez.
Yeah. Okay. And it wasn't a great game. It was actually a very ugly game, but it turned out to be one of the most consequential games in ACC history, and I would argue one of the most consequential in the history of college basketball. And Randy was a senior. He was a senior on that roster, so he was in that game. But that game came up, you know, when a few years later, the NCAA was talking about changing its rules to eliminate the shot clock. I'm sorry, to eliminate to start a 3-point line and a shot clock to prevent that kind of delay. And I think that's probably right. So, you know, Randy had a front row seat to some really interesting ACC basketball. And so did I.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me interject one thing. I know this is your story, but when you talk about him being physically intimidating and imposing, he came up to Pittsburgh one time with me, and we were catching softball out in my front yard. And I thought I looked okay, but Randy had his shirt off, and there was no way any woman came by that was going to give me a second look. So I told Randy, can't you put a damn shirt on?
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah. You Yeah, he was built like a Greek god, and when you reverse engineer his athletic career, and you see how versatile he was as an athlete and the things that he could do at a really high level, and then you see how he's put together. You understand it takes a special kind of body to do everything that he did.
Absolutely.
And he was a powerful basketball player. He came late to the game, and Dick was instrumental in helping him get his skill level to the point where he was a ACC caliber player. But physically, I mean, he owned his space against anybody.
In our pickup games, I would just foul the shit out of him, and it was like I wasn't even there. I mean, I tried everything, but nothing worked.
Yeah. But, back to what his niece said at the funeral about him being a hero. I remember, and I think this was the summer of 1985 when we took the team that's going nowhere. Do your audience know who the...
No, they do not. I'm going to tell that story someday, but I haven't told it yet. So yeah, this is good. This is a tease, people.
There you go.
Well, yeah. So we had a group of guys go to Aruba to play some promotional games, and Randy would do that occasionally. He did that throughout his basketball career, and he would bring different basketball groups to come and do clinics and that kind of thing. This was more of a promotional thing, and the team that's going nowhere was comprised of former Duke and UNC players and University of Pittsburgh player, a Kent State player who's sitting right in front of me right now, yeah, and a couple of other guys. And we were called the team that's going nowhere because we had absolutely no future. But I will say this: we were pretty good. We had some talent. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Hey,
we did okay down there.
We did okay down there. Yeah. So I remember one game that we played in a gym. We played some games outside. Do you remember that?
I think the games in Curacao were, as I recall, as we mentioned earlier, our memories could be a little foggy at this point. I think the games in Curacao were outside and the games in Aruba were inside.
Correct. And the games in Curacao, we played in a 30-mile-an-hour trade lane.
Yes.
Yeah. So the guards have struggled. And the shooters stayed.
Yes, we did.
But anyway, so this game in Aruba, in the gym, we played the game. The game was fine. We had a good crowd. It was a nice experience. And then the game's over, and the crowd's kind of milling around. And out of nowhere, a fight breaks out, and it got hot. I mean, it went from calm and nice to red hot in a nanosecond. And two guys were facing off. One guy had a bottle. He breaks the bottle. He's going for the other guy.
It was crazy.
It was mayhem. And I remember your brother, Dick, he thought that he could reason with them. He was a very logical, reasonable guy. So he goes over and he thinks he's going to convince them that what they're doing was really poor judgment, and we needed to rise above this. All the usual de-escalation tactics that had left the building. So Reason left the building like 5 seconds before, and it wasn't coming back. And then Randy walks over. Randy just strolls over, and he looks at those two kids. The kids look at him. They were teenagers, I think, maybe 16, 17 years old, but they were getting at it. And Randy just sort of did this, and boom, the dynamic changed immediately. And it was because of the stature that he had in Aruba. And then Dick came back around and had some good beats.
And took the credit for de-escalation, right?
Probably.
You fucking Duke guys always did that,
Yeah, and you and I were talking about the cultural significance of that fight.
That's right. I was enjoying the action from my seat. Good Lord.
But at the service in Curacao, I did not go. I watched it on a live stream. That came through so powerfully. What Randy meant to that community, and to the island. And we get in our kind of snapshot relationship with him. We really don't even get his professional career in Europe. And there were a couple of people who spoke at the funeral who were part of that. And, I remember having conversations with Randy about the teams that he played, the coaches that he played with. He had an exceptionally deep understanding of the international game. Right. At a time, this was back before we really had a lot of international players in the NBA, and very, very few in college basketball. But his thinking on that was so advanced beyond anything that we were talking about or doing in the States. Now I look now, the NBA is talking about an international league, right? Mm-hmm. Randy was talking about that in the 1980s.
Right.
They're even talking expansion at this point.
That really wasn't we didn't really have access to that in that part of his life.
Yeah.
After I graduated from Duke in '84, I did the obligatory, Europe tour thing for a couple months. And Randy was in Amsterdam, and I went and visited him, spent a couple days on his couch. He wasn't around very much. He had prior engagements. Prior engagements. And but we went out to dinner and all that. And I got a little sense of what his life was like there as a pro athlete. And, he had stature there as a professional basketball player. Yeah. And he also had kind of a jokester streak that I really hadn't seen. So the morning that I was leaving, I can't remember where I went from Amsterdam, we went out to breakfast. Okay. And we had a nice breakfast. I had my bags, everything ready to go to the train station. And I had him sitting by the table. And then, so I stand up, I'm over talking to Randy. And then I think I went back to get a cup of coffee for the road. I turn around and my bags are gone. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, everything. I had my passport. I had my UWorld pass. Everything. And I'm thinking, this didn't happen. And so I'm furiously looking around the restaurant. I'm going and asking what's happening, to the people there at the cashier's desk, and nobody saw anything. And so I'm like, I'm screwed. So I walk outside, right? Turn the corner, and there's Randy standing with my bags. He said, Rich, you should be way more careful than that. Do not turn your back on your bags. Yeah.
If he hadn't stolen them, you wouldn't have to be careful.
That's right. So I don't know, Dave. I just, I think back on all those times, and I think back on my relationship with Randy, and it was important. It was an important relationship. It wasn't as close as I wish it could be. And, we've talked a little bit about this too. I'm not very good at keeping relationships from the past. I'm not a networker, and that's been a shortcoming in my life. But with the reconnection, that we had the reunion, then we went and got a chance to see him when he was ill. It really helped me understand how important all you guys were and have been, and that Randy had held this place of importance that I'm not sure I fully appreciated until time was too short. And so I think now, the things I should have said, I didn't say, all the thoughts I've had over the years that I wish I'd, communicated and all that stuff. So, but I think with Randy, a lot was understood that didn't need to be said.
I was going to just say that. I don't think we had to say it because he was smart enough to know how we felt. And even though we might not have put it in words, I don't think we had to do it. But that time where we all got together, 4 or 5 months ago, that'll be something I never forget. And as you know, I didn't want to attend that. And that's one of the best memories of my life. And it's because of Randy and everybody. But we'll see if you die first. Then we'll do one of these for you. How about that?
Yeah. Well, Dave, you're one of my anchor guys too. You know, my life, and so how you feeling? You feeling okay?
Today, okay, but don't ask tomorrow. Yeah, keep some time free if you need to come up to Pittsburgh. You know, who knows?
We have a death pool on the podcast, so
we do, and it changed. The odds fluctuate quite a bit. So yeah, we'll see. Well, I'm so glad you came on here and shared this stuff. Do you have more, or is this a good time to wrap up?
I mean, I could go on forever, but
yeah, but we don't want you to. Well, it's not that we don't want you to; they don't fucking want you to.
Yeah, and the other thing I think about Randy, like, and this goes back to you two when you were going at it. He spoke so quickly, and I think some of that is just the way that they talk in Aruba, particularly when they're speaking Papiamento. You talk to your audience about that. So
no.
Okay.
Well, we might get to it sometime.
Yeah, so there's a patois in Curacao and Aruba. It's a combination, I think, of Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and then just a little sprinkling of English. And it's unique to the islands, and it is almost impossible to follow.
Almost. It's impossible to follow.
Impossible to follow. Yeah. Although with the English piece of it, it was mostly proper nouns or American slang phrases. So you're listening to this gibberish, and then something would come out, and New York Yankees, or something that made sense. And you're like, what? Where the hell did that come from?
And I think fuck was in there too. So I'm pretty sure that's about the only part I understood.
I didn't want to elaborate on all the slang, but it was rich. It was rich slang. But I just remember how quickly Randy would speak in that kind of Papiamento kind of way, and it's like, how does he keep all this stuff in his head? You know.
I once asked him what language he dreamt in, and he wasn't sure. The first time he told me he wasn't sure, and then he gave me another comment. This was fairly recently. I think it was on the interview, and it kind of depended on who was in his dream, and I'll just cut it right there.
I think that's a good cut. Yeah, no, he was one of a kind. And you characterized him as one of the most interesting people that you've ever met, and
absolutely,
there's no question about that. And I just was amazed at the breadth of his life. He was so full of life that when you were with him, you just couldn't help but feel better about life.
When you said that about adding, some people add and some subtract, he never subtracted in any way. Any way. Everything all of us, we subtract, even if we try not to. But there was nothing that I could think of one thing of he just added to people's life, and that's how he was. And we could go on and on about this, but we have other people that want to talk here today. So we're going to thank you for your time. And we said the same thing when we interviewed him. We got to have it back. We could do about 8 of these tributes, and who knows? Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe this will be where we become popular, because it certainly hasn't worked out with what the fuck we've been doing.
So, Tiny, real quick, did you know that your co-host is a closet intellectual? And the proof of that,
he's in the closet about a couple things.
The proof of that was his ability to keep up with Randy. That's a sign of a superior intellect.
I did learn that. I learned a couple things today, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, Rich.
Thanks
Hang
so much.
with us. But we appreciate Rich being on, and stay tuned for more. We're here to talk with Randy right now with Phil Ford, accomplished basketball player at NCAA. I should have looked this shit up, but I didn't. I know you were the player of the year and you did a bunch of other shit, but we're not here to talk about you anyway. So
it's not like you and I don't know. You and I haven't known each other for over 30, 40 years. So
yeah. As a matter of fact, you remember when you came to the basketball camp and you had to name a list of all those really shitty players, and I had to tell you, don't fucking go see those guys. They weren't worth the shit.
hey, you were the first person I looked up when I got to a place. Cut my losses.
Okay, that's enough about me. Why don't you tell us about the first time you met Randy?
Well, I met Randy at a college in Raleigh, North Carolina, Meredith College, at your brother's basketball camp, as a matter of fact. It was the summer before Randy matriculated at North Carolina. It was after my freshman year, and I was working Dick's camp. And Randy was in the country then working Dick's camp. And I can't remember whether Randy was going back home after the camp or he went straight to Chapel Hill. I think he went back home and then came back to Chapel Hill. But that was the first time that I met Randy, and we shot around and and played some one-on-one, and just got to know him, and from that one time meeting him, I knew that he was going to be a great addition to our team, a great leader on our team, and I didn't really know all of his accomplishments until he really got back to Chapel Hill. I just knew at that time that he had been a policeman in Curacao, but when he matriculated at Carolina, that's when all of us got to know about the Olympics, being in the Olympics, being in the World Games, being a swimmer, being a sprinter, an accomplished equestrian, accomplished guitar player, speaking 5 or 6 languages. I can't remember how many it was. I mean, one is hard enough for me, but he was really a great guy, a very accomplished guy. And actually, Randy and I were roommates at Carolina his junior year and my senior year.
And how was it being a roommate with him?
Great, man. He was still using this stuff to shave, this powder, and he shaved with a butter knife. And I don't know what it was, but when he mixed that stuff with water, if you were getting off the elevator, everybody on the everybody in the hall knew when Randy was shaving. So that's there. If you ask anybody what they remember about Randy that stayed on the hall with Randy, they'll talk about that stuff he used to shave.
And I thought that was a black thing, but I've never seen another black guy do that in my whole fucking life. So
I never heard of it until Randy used it. And I had very sensitive skin for a long time. I had to use clippers and all kind of stuff, but that stuff, man, I don't know what that was. That was.
Did you ever try it?
I never even went near the can to try it. I didn't want that powder to fall on me. That stuff it smelled, it had an interesting smell to
it. When you learned about all his accomplishments, did you get it mostly from him? Because if someone would tell you about that stuff, you would say, there's no way this is freaking true, but it all was true.
Well, when I thought it was true, and I can't remember how it came up. Maybe one of the coaches, was talking to us about Randy or Eddie or Coach Smith or Coach Guthridge. I don't think Randy actually told me, because he's not that type of guy. You wouldn't,
right.
You couldn't get him to talk about himself for $1 million. But for me to believe that he had done those stuff, seeing the type of athlete and how smart he was, it wasn't surprising, because if you remember, Randy's body was built, man. He was cut, and and the thing is, we weren't lifting weights or anything back then. He was just born with that, so it wasn't surprising to me at all that he had accomplished as many things as he did, and to speak 6 languages, man, that's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I used to always ask him, but he would never answer my question. I said, "Man, when you dream, what are you dreaming?"
I asked him the same thing.
Languages, what are you dreaming? So.
And he told me it depended on the situation. First, he said, I don't know. And then later on, he said it depends on the situation or who he was dreaming about. And we'll just cut it off right there. And then,
Well,
okay.
he's going to be missed. He's going to be missed.
Yeah,
Everybody
for
loved
real.
Randy. I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about Randy.
And then, okay, you came back to coach at Carolina, as did Randy after you went off on your separate professional careers. How was he? We haven't talked to anybody that ever coached with him before. So how was he as a coach?
He was a great coach. Well, I think one thing to be a good coach, I think you have to be kind of intelligent, kind of smart. And you have to be able to get along with people too. And he possessed those two things. He was really extreme. He was very bright. And I know coaching the JV team, all of his guys loved him. Matter of fact, I run into guys now that played for Randy, and they talking about how great it was to play for him and the relationship they had. So, he was a great coach. He was very smart. He was really smart, X's and O's, and he had the ability to get along with everybody, and everybody liked him, and everybody loved to play for him.
Is there any, this is putting you on the spot here, playing with them, is there any story that sticks out to you? Like Ged told us about a time when he did a kip up and Coach Smith, who was so regimented, stopped practice and said, you got to do that again. Yeah. Is there anything that
that's
comes
just
to
the type
you?
of athlete he was. He was just a super athlete. He was just a super athlete that can do some amazing things, man. Like I said, when you run in the Olympics and in the World Games, and when you swim, and you're an accomplished equestrian, speaks those languages, could play the guitar. He was just a amazing guy that could do in a lot of different things. And I don't know if he had time to learn to do all those many things, to tell you the truth. But
I agree. He could do so many things, and you did just wonder, when did you do all this shit? But I couldn't figure that out either. I couldn't figure it out either.
But he's going to be missed, man. He was a great guy, and hopefully he and my buddy Walter Davis are up there now, laughing at each other and telling jokes, because Randy and Walter were really good friends too, because Walter
Right.
actually went to Holland he was an assistant with Randy coaching
Oh,
over
that's
there.
right.
So
That's right. I forgot
they were
about that.
extremely tight too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, we'll wrap this up. I know you could tell us so many more things, but is there any last thing you could just let people know about what Randy meant to you? And you already said he'll be missed, but just kind of wrap it up on. Give us something. Tell us about Randy that maybe we do know or didn't know.
Well, I really believe some of your best friends in life are former teammates. And, with Randy, being one of my former teammates, and he was one of those guys that, some people is not this type of guy that, you may not talk to a lot or talk to all the time, but if you ever needed that guy, only thing you do is pick up the phone and he's there if you need him. And Randy and I had that type of relationship. And, I have that type of relationship with a lot of guys that I played with at Carolina. We were very blessed. We were extremely tight as a team and as a program. I think that's a credit to Coach Smith being there so long. And guys that played in the late '60s were really good friends. The guys played in the late '70s and late '80s. It was just extremely close family, and I'm just glad that I have an opportunity to know Randy and meet Randy and to play with Randy and to call him a friend. He was a great, great person, and I've never heard anybody say one bad thing about Randy. He's really going to be missed.
I'd say that sums it up about as good as anybody can do it. Phil, thank you very much for taking the time and tell us a little bit about Randy and you. Thank you.
Dave, Tiny, thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When putting this together about Randy, I I decided I wanted to have my own segment, but it's pretty hard to interview yourself. I guess I should have given you questions, but
Right.
I didn't. So I'm just going to try to go on. But if you have any questions in the middle, feel free to ask. One of the better things I've done in life is given nicknames. And I gave Randy the best nickname of all time. It might have been my best one ever. And let me first say this. All this, what I'm about to tell you, was before he met his wife. So it was all legal. It was all legal. So Connie, this did not happen while you were part of the picture. But anyway, Randy was known for not necessarily the number of women, although that was certainly in there. But the thing that amazed me was one would come in and then leave, and then there would be another one there. And I'm talking about 5 minutes. And sometime, okay, if they were right from down the road, one would be driving in from 5 hours away. And I would have been nervous as hell. I swear this happened a couple times. One time, I'll give you one time. I said hi to the one girl. I went to the bathroom. Because we lived in a dorm. This was all during camp time. I came back, and then she was gone, and another one was there. It was unfucking believable. Unbelievable that, number one, that he could do this. Most of us don't have that ability to have that many. But the fact that he wasn't nervous about them coming in and out like that. So I named him the air traffic controller. And that stuck because even he knew. We just called him ATC. And it never ceased to amaze me all that time where people would be coming in and out, in and out.
That's funny.
Okay, story number 2. And Phil Ford mentioned this. Randy shaved with a fucking butter knife. A butter knife I've never seen. At first I thought it was a black thing, but then I'm thinking, wait. I know a lot of black people. I've never seen anyone fucking shave with a butter knife.
I didn't believe you guys.
He definitely did that. And but he had this special kind of thing he put on. I don't know what the fuck it was. I don't know what that. But anyway, he has me go to the drugstore one day for him. I said I was going to somewhere, and he said, "Hey, pick this up for me." He wrote it down. And I go into this drugstore, and I asked for this, and this is in the South in the 70s. They looked at me like, what the hell is this white guy asking for this shit? And I tried to explain, then I just said, oh, the hell with it. But I did give Randy hell. I said, no, from now on, you're buying your own black shit that you use your fucking... And
you have no idea what it was or what it was.
It softened the skin and moisturized, and it made it easy, I guess, with it. But no, I really don't know what it was. He had to write it down. I had to ask. Even after he wrote it down, I couldn't find the damn thing in the drugstore. The druggist had to take it to me, and the druggist was a little bit of a redneck, and I thought he was going to call the police on me. Okay. And Randy had I don't even know how to explain this. Randy did have a silly side to him, even though he was, serious in a lot of ways. But this is the silliest thing. This is why I don't know if I can explain this. At our basketball camp, I don't know who came up with this. It sure as fuck wasn't me, but I became the human cello. The human cello. And all I would do is stand there with my arm up, and Randy would play me, and Randy would come up and he'd put his arm on my shoulder and strum right in here. And it makes no fucking sense. And all I did was stand there, but the camp loved it. And it had to be because of him being out of character, because it wasn't anything I fucking did. But the fact, and this didn't happen like once. This went on for years. The human cello lasted for a long time. That's awesome. And he never had a problem getting up and strumming me.
That's pretty funny.
And my final tale about Randy, camp ended on Fridays. And then one Friday afternoon, we were off on the weekend, and he said, hey, let's go down. I had a car. I'm not sure he did then. We drove to a horse show. And I thought for sure we were going to that because I was a wingman, because he was meeting up with someone, and maybe she had a friend, and maybe I had to, that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. So the horse show is going on, like I said, a Friday afternoon in Raleigh, and every horse is coming out, and Randy's telling me what's good about that or what's bad about that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, his knowledge was amazing, but I wasn't listening because I kept looking like, okay, where's my woman coming? Hope she's pretty nice and pretty stupid, so I have a chance. As it turned out, no, we were just there to see the horses. And then once I realized that, then I started listening. I can't remember anything he taught me now, but I so wish that I would have taken that all in and maybe gone to another one, because his knowledge of horses, he didn't know these horses, but all they did was come out and he already had like 8 things to say. And they were only out there for 35 seconds. And it was just unbelievable, his knowledge. And when I saw that, I knew about his athleticism and his playing the guitar and all that. But when I saw his knowledge of horses, it was just amazing to me. And I wish to this day that I didn't think I was a wingman. Maybe I'd be showing horses now. You know? Who the hell knows?
Or be a king at Ladbrokes or something.
Something more than I am fucking now. Let's put it that way. But just an amazing amount of knowledge. I don't know how he accrued all that, but he knew horses like most of us. Well, I don't know anything. I have no knowledge of any subject like he fucking knew horses.
Wow.
And that's just a few things. I could go on and on, but like we've been saying all along here, I'm not going to, but there you got it. Here we have Bill Auman, renowned lawyer and author. Yeah, we have all these big timers here, but we're not talking about him. We're talking about Randy. So, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit of background, how you got to know Randy and where your relationship with him all started?
All right. Well, Randy was one of the counselors at this camp that you used to be a part of. I think you handled the entertainment and your brother handled the teaching part of basketball.
What was better, the entertainment or the teaching?
I
you don't have to answer
that. So, it was a highlight every summer for me to go to the Dick DeVenzio / Dave DeVenzio basketball camps in the 70s. And I believe my first year was around 74, might have been 73. And Randy showed up, I want to say it was around 75.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And I gave him a hard time because I grew up near Raleigh and I was an NC State guy, got my little prop here. And David Thompson was the David Thompson who preceded Michael Jordan. He was Michael Jordan before there was a Michael Jordan. And we won a national title. And I was like, Randy, why do you want to go play for Norton Sloan at NC State? And I would rag him about that. And he was very good natured. And he took it well. And actually, they started beating us again soon after he got there. Not because of him. But I will say this, he was probably the best athlete I've ever known. I mean, he could, you guys know, I mean, Dave, you know real well, but he was an Olympic swimmer. He was an Olympic track star before he even got into basketball. And he was kind of scary being as strong as he was. And I found out later he was a policeman too, which scares me even more since I did criminal defense work for 30 years. But no, Randy, I got along great with Randy. Randy, later in life became the coach at UNC Ashville. I taught there as an adjunct for 14 years. So I saw his teams play there a good bit before he moved on to Middle Tennessee. But one story that I think you probably want to know about and probably were part of way back when that involved Randy was the camp moved from Meredith College, to St. Andrews. Right around the time I think Randy started being a part of it as a counselor. And he was real buff. He had big biceps. I'm like, how'd you get those biceps? He said, push-ups, Bill, push-ups. How'd you get me in such good shape? You run, Bill, you run. I mean, give me some secret, give me something to go on here. No. So there was this little snack bar across from the gym at St. Andrews called the Red Lion. I think we used to call it the Dead Lion. I actually went to St. Andrews and played on their tennis team for 2 years.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where I met my wife. That's another story. This is about Randy. And there we go. And
fucking lawyer.
Objection, sustained relevancy. All right. So Randy was at camp that year. I recall there were a bunch of the local yokel redneck guys that didn't like us being in Laurinburg for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know why, but they decided they were going to take over the Red Lion, and they weren't going to let any of the campers go in there and get food or get snacks or whatever we were getting at that time. And so I think Dick organized this because he organized pretty much everything back then. You were probably a little hungover.
Probably.
I guess. So Dick told me, and because I haven't grown any since, and you know this, Dave, I probably had a mustache when I was 12. I was a big kid, and I haven't grown since I was about 14 or 15. Frog Winfrey actually told me I had a mustache when I was 12. I remember Frog. And I remember Richard Ford, too. That's another story. But back to Randy. Dick had me and some of the other bigger campers go with Randy and some of the other counselors to clear the way for the younger, smaller, well, I think we're all pretty much the same age, the smaller guys to be able to get through the crowd. And I was a little nervous. I remember telling Dick, I said, well, sure, I'll be at the front as long as I'm standing beside Randy. And I did. I walked over there with Randy. I didn't let him get out of my sight. I stayed real close to him. And sure enough, those guys, those local yokels saw me coming, of course, and they got out of our way. Not sure if Randy has something to do with that. Of course, I'm being
something to do with it. I'd say he probably had most of it. I remember you being big, but not that imposing, you know.
Yeah, that's probably true. I was a little soft, I guess. I needed to work on my push-ups and my wind sprints more.
That's right. You didn't listen to Randy. You wanted a shortcut to look like him, not all the push-ups and the running he did, right?
Now, I did talk to Randy recently. I called him, and I appreciate you letting me know that the things that had gone downhill for him. But you would never know it from talking to him. I talked to him probably a couple weeks before he passed, and we reminisced about a lot of that. And he remembers how I used to rag him about NC State. He actually brought that up, and he said, Bill, they're picked ahead of the Tar Heels in the preseason, the way too early preseason poll. And, we'll see what this new coach does. I don't know. I'm excited, but yeah, you would never know that he wasn't feeling well. He was upbeat. He was, he was really gracious and was very happy to hear from me. And it was a good conversation. So. Because I was hungover most of the time, I didn't remember what relationships were built with people that came to the camp and Randy. So I didn't even think at first to tell you that he was sick, but then you said right away, I gave you his number and you called him, and I think that's great that you had that conversation with him. Well, I remember that you had, and he even mentioned that you had seen him in, I think, Spider, and
we all went in the spring. It was a wonderful relationship.
I was there with Spider too. Spider's one of those guys that was a little guy that turned out to be big,
right? But you probably had to clear the way for him to get into the Red Lion, and he might even have been a counselor then. Well, any other memories of Randy that you can let us in on here?
Well, I mean, he was just impressed me as a very intelligent, conscientious, good guy. He spoke 5 or 6 different languages, and he always related well to us as campers. We all thought the world of him. Really nice guy, and somebody who we looked up to, and it's real sad that he's no longer with us, but he had a positive impact on many of us, as did a lot of you guys. I tell people all the time that your brother was one of my major mentors, and you were one of my major. Well, we won't say what that was, but it was fun.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay, well, I thank you for coming on and just
thank you for
telling us a little bit about Randy, and it's just funny how many people he touched in so many different. We're going to try to get a cross section of people to talk about him, and the fact
I do have your shirt on.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you show that a little bit more? Because even though this is about Randy, I'm okay with a plug. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
my new book's going to be Pioneer Paddles of the Colonial South.
And okay, we might as well give a plug to your book. What's the name of your book?
The upcoming one is Pioneer Paddles of the Colonial South.
It is.
But the novel that you read is If Trees Could Testify, and it's still
right. I was actually, I don't read many books, but I read that one in a couple of days, and it was good. It was good.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bill, very much for being part of this thing, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Unforgettable. That's what you are.
Well, there you have it. I hope there were parts that you might have enjoyed. Maybe you learned. Definitely some parts that you were amazed by. Hopefully all three of those.
Like the slang that was 4 different languages put into one.
That's right. That's right.
That's my favorite one, I think.
This whole thing went a little longer than we normally do here on Pittsburgh Dive Bar Talk, but it was necessary. And it was hard for us. We had to really keep people from talking as much as they wanted to just because he was such a fascinating person. It could have been so much longer, yes. But we did what we could. And along those lines, I wish we did a more professional job. He is an editor, me as an interviewer. I'm not very frickin' good at it, I know, but Randy really deserved a full Hollywood film.
Yes.
Done like that, but we did the best we could, and at the very least, at least this video is now out for somebody to watch and see what he was all about that didn't know him, or maybe go back and remember him by.
Sure.
And I just want to say thank you, Randy, for being a huge part of my life. Here's to you.